There we go. Hello, everybody. It's Black History Month, October in the UK, and I have the wonderful opportunity to speak to Tiffany, who has agreed to have a chat with me and give a little bit of a perspective as to, why Black History Month? Why is it important? Tiffany's a student I met at a conference a couple of weeks ago, but I'm going to leave that for Tiffany. Just to introduce herself, what she gets up to, who she is, and then to help us understand the importance of Black History Month. Over to you,
Of
Tiffany.
course. Of course. Thank you so much. I will apologize for my really bad Wi-Fi in case you guys can't see me properly or hear me properly. So, as Dr. Trevor said, my name is Tiffany. I'm a current fourth year medical student, and we met at a conference. Something that I'm really passionate about is using my voice to help others, and especially using my voice in places where other people can't necessarily advocate for themselves. So I'm a super chatty person. So I talk to basically everyone from loads of different backgrounds, which, as well as just being fun and making life more interesting, it means that I get to gain a lot of different experiences I can take into these spaces. So I've previously done quite a bit of work on equality, diversity, inclusion, as well as access to education and kind of bridging and minimizing the gap between certain minority communities and groups.
So tell us a little bit more about why Black History Month is important. Clearly, people watching this, I'm South African, so I share a little bit of passion in the subject, but I share it from a different perspective.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily share it as somebody who goes through struggles, issues. I don't even know. I'm worried about using the wrong words here. You give it to us from your perspective. Why is this important?
Well, I mean, I think the first thing is never be worried, in my opinion, never be worried about using the wrong words. There's no such thing. We're all human, we all make mistakes, we're all fallible. And as long as you're hoping and open to learning as you are by chatting with me, because I never stop talking, then obviously you'll get there and you'll know what's going on. So for me personally, I think Black History Month goes beyond just the name. It goes beyond just looking at Black history. I think, especially when we're thinking about the theme this year, which is saluting our sisters, one thing that's really important in the Black community is that aspect of community and being there for each other. So, for me personally, when I think of Black History Month, I think of celebrating those from a particular marginalized background, so people who are Black, and celebrating their successes, understanding that they might have more hurdles to go over in order to get there. And that doesn't just stop with Black people. They're not the only marginalized group, but it's a nice month in order to kind of resonate with that and see the fact that, wow, it's incredible that you got here, but it's even more incredible that you got here considering X, Y, and Z could have stopped you, tried to stop you, or was limiting kind of your ascension. So for me personally, I don't think it's just about Black people. It's just kind of celebrating overcoming adversity, yet still doing so great in whatever field you're in.
Let's unpack this word marginalization a little bit. I'm South African. I've been in the UK for 20 something years, and I know that there are certain occasions where, again, maybe potentially no fault of somebody else, I get marginalized in the conversation. Oh, where you from?
Mm-hmm.
Right? We know the where you're from incident that happened a couple of months ago. And this push for my heritage, even though I've been in the UK for 20 something years, British citizen, and so on. I remember where I live in the Medway town, somebody actually even said, well, welcome. And I thought, what do you mean welcome? I've been here for more than 20 years. And it's that
Yeah.
sense of putting me as an outsider, constantly
Yeah.
reminding me that I'm an outsider. Um, what does marginalization look like potentially as well for somebody from a more disadvantaged background? What are the things that somebody who doesn't understand that take for granted?
So what they take for granted, I think in a way, are you necessarily kind of talking about the opposite? So not asking what marginalized is, but how to explain marginalization to those who aren't. Is that what you mean?
Exactly, and to recognize why these kinds of months are important to raise these issues to the
Mm.
surface.
I think, and the best way I can explain it is in everyday life and what we see. in media, what we consume in schools, education systems, a lot of things celebrate a specific type of person. So, I'm a student, I'll give an example. When we learn CPR, we learn CPR on dummies, and they are based off the demographics of an average weight 40-year-old white man. So, the bone density, the skin, all things like that. And that's a learning opportunity. If we translate that to successes in other aspects, we can see that in life, things are based upon a certain image of human. So it can therefore be a bit difficult to celebrate people or to understand people's experiences if they don't fit that mold. And that's what we mean by marginalized, because unintentionally, for example, going back to the example I just gave, unintentionally, if we're trying to help someone who doesn't fit those demographics, who isn't white British, who isn't a man, who doesn't have the same build, you're going to reach obstacles. You're going to reach those hurdles. If you then, hopefully, as a doctor, successfully treat them, which you will do, that's in a way should be celebrated specifically because, yes, you've treated them like every other patient, but you had to treat them without having the same understanding, the same knowledge, the same kind of foundation as you would have had for other people. So that's the importance of the month. It's the fact that these different groups, whatever they may be, which doesn't just stop at Black people, have this unfortunate innate disadvantage in society. So when they can proceed or when they do make these big strides in their field, they deserve the recognition, and they deserve the recognition in a way to highlight the fact that they may have experienced different hardships that others may not have.
I think this is so important in a society nowadays where being woke is almost a negative thing. I think we're nowhere even close.
Yeah.
We're raising issues around marginalization based on color. There's aspects around gender. There's issues around age. There's issues around neurodiversity and learning difficulties, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just raising that awareness, being more aware, not just taking things for granted, making assumptions that the world isn't defined how you experience the world, but actually people experience the world in a very different way. I know in academia, one of the big things that we're constantly doing is decolonizing the curriculum. So in other words, not always having white male as examples of success, or drawing on theories or models that is always again dominant within that perspective. For you personally, and I love your medical example, and I guess we'll come in for landing now. What is it that you personally would love to see achieved? What needs to be different in 5 or 10 years' time? What does that world look like for you?
That's a really good question. And I don't think I've ever been asked that question like that. I think there's two aspects to it. There's the case of what do I think could be achieved versus what do I hope would be achieved. Because something we've talked about previously is unfortunately sometimes you'll try and evict change and actually cause a different problem you didn't perceive. So that's not something you'd hope for. When you're hoping for, you'd hope for your change to create something else. I think in 5 to 10 years' time, I would just hope that the world is happy to be vulnerable. And when I use the word vulnerable, I feel like it sometimes has a lot of negative connotation. But by that, what I mean is allow yourself to have conversations and be wrong, talk to different people, have different experiences. You might be from a particular background, but if you have everyone else's experiences or stories in your head, when you go into these spaces, you'll have more understanding. It's all well and good to say, oh, we want to dismantle racism on a big scale. Fine, fair enough. And hopefully we can achieve that eventually, or dismantle misogyny, sexism, all the phobias, all the isms out there, and there are a lot, and there's increasing by the day. And I think a lot of that just stems from feeling vulnerable and having those open conversations. So I hope, and as you were saying, there's a lot of negativity around being woke nowadays, and equally, there's a lot of cancel culture nowadays, which is really, really difficult when we're trying to achieve what we hope the world might be in 5 to 10 years. So what I'm hoping for is no cancel culture, none of this bridge between those who are woke to those who aren't. I'm just hoping for a society where you can just have a chat with someone and gain knowledge and gain insight and just keep doing that everywhere, just keep talking and keep raising this awareness. But it wouldn't be awareness at that point. It's just living life, understanding those who are also living life concordant to yours.
Tiffany, thank you. It's been short and sweet, but I think what we are hoping to achieve is let's have a conversation. Let's be open, let's talk, let's listen, and let's continue to journey together and understand how we all share this planet together and do it in such a way that we both benefit at the end of the day. So thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your life.
Thank you very much.